All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Ron Futrell from Channel 8 in studio as well. Glad you could join us. Well, we're going to be talking a lot of UNLV hoops here in the next few weeks or so. We don't know who the new head coach is going to be, but what we do know that it was 11 days ago that Marvin Menzies and his staff were relieved of their duties. And one of his assistant coaches, we were talking a little bit on social media, that would be Coach Eric Brown. We were talking a little bit on social media, and he said some nice things. He said he appreciated what I did, so on and so forth, and that, he understood sometimes when we went at him a little bit, JD, and we criticized them at times, and we praised them when they deserve to be praised, and I appreciated those kind remarks, and I invited him to come on the show, and he obliged. So we're glad to have him on the show right now, Coach Eric Brown. Coach, I appreciate you taking some time to join us. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thank you. So many questions to get to you, Coach, in such a short period of time. Let me start with this. When did you first learn that you guys were relieved of your duties?
It was pretty much the same time that everyone else found out. I think it was that Friday, 10 days ago. So it was Friday afternoon after Coach had met with the administration.
But what was your? Were you guys surprised? I would imagine you guys didn't see this coming, or did you?
We were a little surprised. I don't think there's any head coach around the country who gets fired and they're really happy about it, or they're really not surprised. I think that what happens, it surprises everyone to a certain extent. And, you hear about throughout the year with our situation, but, we kind of thought we're trending in the right direction. We really liked our team a lot. And, it happened. It's part of athletics, and we'll all move on.
What do you think were your best accomplishments at UNLV and maybe your biggest demise? Now, for me, I praised you guys at the beginning of year two because I thought the recruiting job you guys did was phenomenal, right? You had Houston coming in, top JUCO player, unbelievable, get. And then you have McCoy, a McDonald's All-American. You have JoJo, more than capable two-guard. I'm sure you would agree. And and Johnson was a guy who was, third in the country in assists when he was a sophomore. That was a heck of a starting lineup you guys had, right, in year two?
We did, yeah. We liked that group. We had some holes, like every other team in the country. No one's really always satisfied with their roster, but we thought we made progress from year one, year two, and we liked that group a lot. That was a good question you asked. What was kind of our accomplishments and our demise? It's kind of a short turnaround in terms of seeing a kid come through your system there for 4 years, but we were just really proud of the kind of kids we brought into campus, into our program, and the kind of kids they became, and graduating guys and doing well in the classroom. We just had a really good group of guys that we thought represented our city and our university in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know what? Maybe that's not spoken as much as it should. And I'll give you credit where credit is due there, where these kids, they're graduating, they're good students. You didn't hear them getting into any sorts of trouble on campus or off campus. And that's a credit to you guys, no doubt about it. And I don't think anybody criticized you guys for that. If anything, and people like me, and I'll be honest, I criticized for the way season two ended, losing your last 5 games in conference and then losing in the quarterfinals of the tournament. I thought you guys had too much talent for that to happen. And then I heard that there were chemistry issues. And a lot of teams have to go through stuff like that. And then this year, you had some promising kids. I thought Houston getting hurt. Maybe if Houston doesn't get hurt, maybe the season ends differently. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, he's a preseason first player. And, the year before, he's, I think, top 10 in the nation in rebounding and field goal percentage. He just, he presents a different dynamic when he's in your lineup. And when you take him out of that lineup like we did, we had to make some adjustments. And when you make adjustments, you got, guys learning on the fly. I think Joel, really took off when he went from the 3 to the 4 in that spot. But, we missed him. We missed him in terms of, the rebounding and the toughness. And he also gave us a guy that can really score with his back basket. And that,
Sure.
That was something we were missing this year. Excuse me. I know we shot the ball pretty well at times, but when we didn't shoot the ball well, we were looking for that guy in the block, and Core would have given us that. And
sure.
And, it's again, injuries are a part of it. Every team deals with it, and when it happens at the beginning of the season, you've got some time to get guys in a different rhythm or a different role, so to speak. But when it happens in the middle of the year, which happens to a lot of teams,
right?
There's there's a learning curve there that
no doubt.
Pretty sure the kids need to figure out quickly.
No doubt. If you're just joining us, former UNLV assistant coach Eric Brown joining us he was under Marvin Menzies. Okay, so let's try to put some rumors aside here, and then this is the last question I'm going to ask you in regards to the day you learned that you were relieved of your duties there along with Marvin Menzies. I heard a rumor that Marvin Menzies went into Francois' office and asked for a 2-year extension. Is there any truth to that, or was it just one of those situations where she just asked him to come in the office and said, hey, I got to let you go? I mean, can you tell us exactly what happened there?
Oh, yeah, I haven't even heard that rumor, and I didn't even go in the office on Friday. That's the first day of your season ending. We lost to San Diego State on Thursday, and it was Friday. I'm like, okay, I'm taking my kid to school. I'm
right.
And come back there on Monday, but I hadn't heard that at all.
Okay, so that didn't happen. Okay, so what's the first thing that if you can share with us, that Marvin Menzies tells you in the group? What would you get a phone call from him? How does that even work?
Yeah, Coach, we had some people there in the assistant coach reached out to the people who weren't directly there in the office and just kind of told us, we're not coming back. And you have a team meeting with the guys, and Coach was great. Coach, Marv's a phenomenal person. He's really strong. He's a really good leader. He was awesome in that meeting room.
Can you share with us anything that was said there? Can you share with us, Coach, if you can? Or what any of the kids said? I would imagine a lot of the kids were surprised.
Yeah, I think it's a surprise that everybody when that happens. But he just said, hey, it's time for us to move on. And it wasn't one of those deals where you sit and you kind of wonder why, or you just want that moment in there to be the last moment together and really cherish it. And we thank the kids and thank the guys for being who they are and allowing us to coach them. And that was kind of it, and it was really, Marv was really strong on there. Marv did a great job.
Eric, this is Ron Futrell. I sympathize with your job here. I've been in Vegas 35 years, so I've seen a lot of things happen with this basketball program, and I certainly sympathize with what you guys are going through, with what you've had to go through, and the difficult nature of this position over the years. But where from here for you and for Marvin Menzies? Do you know yet? Well, what are your plans? What have you heard about Marvin? Is he where's he planning on heading?
We all communicate pretty consistently, and and this is, we're kind of getting into April here. It's, there's a lot of what if scenarios this time of year. What if this job opens up, or what if this coach leaves? And I think today there were 8 openings alone, and so you kind of just, you sit back and you try to position yourself for different locations, different spots. You network, you're on the phone a ton, and you just try to get out ahead of stuff. And it's rhyme or reason to it, but you just want to stay in the loop.
Sure.
With as many things as possible.
I've heard from a lot of people that say that look, Marvin has showed a lot of class throughout this process. You've shown a lot of class, and again, I don't want to bring up a negative, but I feel like I have to ask you about this because obviously on your staff, Coach LaFleur went on Twitter, and we spoke a little bit about this off the air, but he said some things on Twitter that maybe I don't think you would say or Marvin Menzies would say. Certainly, everybody's entitled to their opinion, right? But in a way, he went after the fans a little bit. What did you make of that? Have you talked to LaFleur? What did you make of that whole situation?
Well, I haven't read everything that he said or he put out there or anything. I kind of heard about it. But, Andre's a really good friend. He's a phenomenal coworker. He is, he's someone that he's won national championships. And I've learned a lot from him, working with him, working side by side with him. And, we all, handle it differently. And I didn't, I'm at the stage where I need to move on,
Right, I understand that.
Andre's really good for these kids. He's someone that played the game. He's worked under Hall of Fame coach. I mean, he did a lot of good things for these guys on and off the floor in terms of mentoring them. And I don't all that other stuff that's out there. I haven't seen all that stuff, but I'm not real knowledgeable about it.
Okay, look back. Oh, Dave Rose today, by the way, BYU retired or was forced to retire, whatever. So that an interesting, rather significant West Coast change coming there at BYU when that happens. But okay, I want to go back to one of the most interesting things with you is, and I grew up in Southern California, so I know Van Nuys.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Hacienda Heights, Wilson High School.
There you go.
So in San Gabriel Valley, but Van Nuys High School, you coach Gilbert Arenas there. one of the great
Right.
NBA players, fun NBA players. So you know talent, you see talent, you've worked with it, you've developed, and I like this part. Developed talent certainly is very important. Anybody on this team that you could look at that you could say, okay, wait a second, this guy's got some real potential here. I hope he stays at UNLV, helps build that program, or is it wipe the slate clean and start over again?
No, I think this group of kids, there's a lot of youth on this roster. I think we've kind of hit on that before. There's a lot of freshmen and sophomores on this current team, and even with the freshmen, you typically see the biggest growth in terms of development between the freshman and sophomore year, because when they get into their sophomore year, you've had a full calendar year to work with them. They've played 30 Division I games, so they're not off, and they're just there's a comfort level there. So I thought the freshmen really make a jump, kind of like Amari did. I thought Amari made a good jump between his freshman and sophomore year, and I thought Mbake was making a good jump too until he got hurt. But that freshman class is all very talented with Joel and JTT and Bryce and Trey. Those are all very good players, and I think each one of them is their trajectory is headed up.
Eric, when you look in the stands at the home games this year, you saw crowds of anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000. 3 years ago, 4 years ago even, I mean, the games were basically sellouts. Do you think that there was some type of disconnect between the students and the Las Vegas or in the UNLV fan base and the team this year?
See, I don't really have a good feel for that because, the schools I've been at, like I was at Long Beach State and Northridge, and those are kind of commuter schools. And when I was at USC, we had good crowds, we had bad crowds. I mean, I don't have a feel for that. And I don't understand, the dynamic behind that. But yeah, you obviously want to play in front of big crowds and you want as many students as possible because it does make a difference. But as coaches, you really can't. You try to control what you can control, and we just try to control, how well our team's going to play and how we're going to play and how we're going to perform and all that. And obviously, everybody likes to win, and so we try to control those things. And again, I don't know why or have a feel for why those crowds were down.
Mm-hmm. And that makes sense. I understand that there's only certain things you can control, especially as an assistant. You're trying to do your job, scout and recruit and do the best job you can do. Let me ask you this, though. I would imagine you get to know these guys, and they seem like really good kids, and you mentioned Amari Hardy, who I think has really dramatically improved. You mentioned from freshman to sophomore year. Man, I think he's a much better player now than he was a year ago, maybe even 6 months ago. And when you hear what these kids are going through now, it's a business for you guys, right? You're going to find a job somewhere else. Menzies is going to find a situation somewhere else as well. But these kids now are in a spot where they're likely going to transfer, and most of these kids probably are going to transfer. Let's call it for what it is. How does that make you feel as a coach that you recruit these kids, you work with them, and now they have to go through this? It's not just the coaching staff, right? The players have to go through a very difficult time as well. Many of them might be transferring. What's your take on that whole thing?
One of the most gratifying things as a coach is when you recruit a kid and you coach them, and then you see them graduate and you move on. It's just like, okay, when they leave you go to that graduation ceremony in June when they're seniors, and you walk away from that graduation ceremony, you're like, wow, that was 4 years with so and so, and it's worked out great. And you just kind of look back like, wow, he's turned the corner. He's ready for the world, and those are the things you really enjoy. Obviously the coaching and the player development, you get them better, but you want to be there for every step of it, and you want to see them achieve success. You want to see them grow as people and as basketball players, and and that was a really fun group we had this year. I know we didn't win 25 games, but we really enjoyed that group of kids because it was a good group of kids, and they got along well. We had good chemistry. You're never going to have anything perfect, but we didn't have any really issues, and it was a fun group to be around. So you kind of miss that in terms of what you could have coached in the future.
No one ever criticized them for not playing hard this year. Certainly not this year. I mean, it certainly seemed to me that they were very coachable, and they worked hard and they played hard, and they all were a group. And you're right, we never heard anything about chemistry issues or anything like that. Let me ask you this. A guy like a Marvin Menzies, he talks to the media every day, right? I mean, after a game, you got the press conference. He's doing interviews here. He was always very gracious with us. He always came on the show when I requested it. And, he knew that the criticism was there, but he still came in. He was always very nice to me. But he had a chance to talk to the media all the time. You didn't. So if you're talking to the UNLV fans right now, And if there's anything that you wanted to tell them, what would you say right now to all the UNLV fans out there?
Well, I think, the fan base has been really, really good over the years, and I think the fan base here is knowledgeable. I think the fan base here is passionate. This town wants to win because they've won. They've seen it before. And, I don't know. Again, I can't predict the future, but they're going to get someone in here, and it's going to be a good person and a good coach, and they're going to get good players in here. So you just got to support the next staff, and whether it takes a year or 2 years, I don't know how long it's going to take for them to turn the page on it. But again, I think this fan base is really, really, they love basketball and they're excited about basketball, and they're kind of waiting to get out of their seats some more. I think it's a fan base that's going to, they're enjoy winning here pretty soon. I don't know when or what year or with who, but it's coming. Be patient, but it's coming.
Definitely hungry fan base here. There's no question about that. We're talking to Eric Brown, assistant coach at UNLV with Marvin Menzies here. Recently, the staff was let go, and so out there on the job search, as you mentioned, it happens as coaches. You guys get that and understand that. Okay, Craig Smith up at Utah State. What he did this year, I think, was became the coach of the year in the Mountain West Conference. First-year coach comes out of virtually nowhere. I mean, where, North Dakota or something, and shows up there and does what he does, wins a conference, and has a remarkable season. How does that happen year one, that somebody turns a program around?
You got to look at their roster. I think when Tim was let go, it was his third year, and I think they had a good chunk of guys returning. You got obviously they lost the really talented point guard. I think he transferred to Marquette. I can't remember his name, but you got Merrill and you got Taylor, and they had a little bit of a foundation there. But excuse me, my sprinklers just went on. But they had a little bit of a foundation there, and then they brought in the big kid. And I think, if you look at the foundation, not just in terms of talent, but in terms of some veterans, some guys that have played 30-plus minutes. So I think the foundation was there. And, I think Craig does a good job. I've known Craig. He's not only a good offensive coach, but a defensive coach. And, I just think he had a good foundation to start with, but he did a hell of a job. I mean, he got those guys clicking on both sides of the ball, and they were fun to watch.
Does Eric Musselman go somewhere from Reno this year, do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't.
Come on now. We start a rumor here, at least something. We got to at least have some.
I think that's the last thing Eric wants to do right now is start a rumor.
You remember, like, back in the days when you go to grocery stores, like the National Enquirer was sitting right there checking out. Like, this time of year in college basketball, there's a lot of National Enquirer stuff going on. There's a lot of rumors and, this guy that. I don't know. I mean, Eric's done a good job there. He's done a great job there, and he's going to, make a decision that he needs to make for himself.
All right, Eric, who wins the national championship this year?
I'm going with the Zags.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm there.
Why Gonzaga?
They had a close call. I think when you're one of those teams that's gotten there but hasn't achieved, they've been in the Elite Eight, they've been in the finals, and I think they got that taste in their mouth still to go along with talent, to go along with veterans. I mean, they can score, they can defend, they can rebound, they could beat you inside, they could beat you outside, and they're well coached, and they've got all of it. But I think that intangible of being there and losing, I think that sticks to their mouth, and
I think few needs one.
Right, like a lot of teams get there,
right,
but they've never been there, so they don't really get it. Well, I think that they've lost now. They've gone pretty far and lost the last couple of years. I think that really stays in their mouth with them.
No, they're really deep, but March Madness is all about guard play, and I'm just not sure if Josh Perkins can handle a really, really good defensive point guard.
Well, that's a good one there. I mean, I haven't really analyzed them that closely, but I agree. I think guard play is the most important thing, and it also comes down to matchups too, because you can play a team that you don't match up well, and it might be a 9 seed for all you know, and if you don't match up well, then you're going to have problems for 40 minutes.
Yeah, no doubt. Eric, a coach that you would die to work for, who would it be?
Wow, you guys got some good questions tonight.
We are full of brilliant questions.
All right, I'll make it even easier for you, Eric. I'll make it easier for you. Dead or alive, a coach that you would die. Well, that's a bad way bad word to use. But a coach that you would love to work for, maybe past not here with us or with us.
If you had a hologram machine,
yes. Who would you want to work for? Like a dream job for you?
How about Jerry Tarkanian?
Well,
there you go. That's a good answer.
Here's what Tark did, and I'm going to.
Tark and I both have Long Beach State in common. So the last coach.
You do?
Yeah. Long Beach State was before Tark, and before me was Tark.
You do have that, yes, indeed. And he talked about that quite often here when UNLV recruited him, which they did in the early 70s. Was a major recruiting job to get him from there. What was interesting with Tark that I found some of the most interesting thing is that as a motivator. Oh, he was there. He did that. He also knew to defer to Tim Gergerich as his assistant coach, who was the top assistant coach in college basketball at the time, and later became the top NBA assistant coach. And that's not just me saying this; it's certainly across the board. But he deferred to Gerg so many times that it was a good cop, bad cop sometimes. It was they had a balance there that it was masterful in the way that those two operated and motivated these players to the point where they thought when they played San Jose State that they were taking on Duke and the national championship was at stake and that they had to go straight balls out and they'd get up by 30 points, because they were playing San Jose State early on. Yeah. But they great motivators, and they made every player better. They didn't get great recruits here, by the way. Back then at UNLV, they really did not get great recruits. No blue chippers here, but they turned them into better players once they were
no doubt.
All right, Eric, final question. Did you ever hear any racial epithets directed towards Marvin Menzies?
Did I hear any?
Yeah,
I didn't. I've never heard any. But again, I'm not. I'm not on Coach's social media or his email or his phone. I directly have not heard that. No.
Yeah. See, I was just asking him some really good questions, and then we had to go back to Marvin Menzies. Sorry.
You guys went curveball, fastball, curveball.
Well, Eric,
mine was more of a knuckleball.
Well, look, I mean this sincerely. Eric, you're a stand-up guy for coming on and answering some questions that maybe aren't the easiest, and this is tough, but I have no doubt you're going to be working somewhere next year. There's no doubt. I know I know everyone on the staff's going to be getting a gig somewhere, whether that's for Marvin Menzies or not, I don't know, but you still have your whole life ahead of you, your career ahead of you, like I said, I think you're a stand-up guy for doing this. I appreciate it, and we'd love to talk to you again wherever you are working sometime soon, we hope, down the road.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. Good talking college basketball with you guys.
Thanks, Eric. I appreciate it. We wish you luck, my man. Thank you. There you go. Eric Brown.
I was going to ask favorite rock band from the 70s other than Zeppelin, because you start there at the mountaintop and you go, other than Zeppelin, who's your favorite rock band of the 70s?
I could see him having some Grateful Dead.
You go there.
Connections or lineage, something along those lines.
Look, I appreciate him doing that interview.
Yes.
Okay, that's more than I can say for some of the other people on the staff. Okay, he was willing to do this, answer the difficult questions. I'm glad he, cleared up maybe some of those rumors, because I did hear that rumor that Menzies asked for a 2-year extension. Perhaps that's not true, and I believe Eric.
He said, no, here's what Eric said. Very careful. He said he did not hear that. So he didn't say it wasn't true. He said he hadn't heard it. Yeah. So there is a significant difference there.
Well, you know what? He's a young guy for the coaching business. He's still young. He'll probably be a head coach somewhere along the lines. He'll probably get a good, and we wish him the best. We really do. Eric, thank you so much for taking some time. We really appreciate it. We'll take some calls on that. That was an interesting interview. 257-5396, the number to call. Again, 702-257-5396 is the number to call. We were just speaking with Eric Brown, former assistant to Marvin Menzies here at UNLV. Let's go to Scott. Scott, thanks for calling in. How are you?
What's up, Scott?
Good. Guys, 11 days ago when the AD fired Menzies, do you think if a reporter stood up and said, I'll give you $1 billion if you know the head coach's name at South Dakota State, do you think she knew it?
I hope she did.
Well, let me just explain. Let me explain real quick.
Seventh choice. You guys know that, right?
Yeah, let me just explain what Scott is saying to our listeners. The South Dakota coach, who looks like will most likely be the UNLV coach, is TJ Otzelberger, and the answer to that, Scott, is no. They probably not, and the reason why is I put somebody who's a supporter of TJ, was on social media, and I guess one of the fans had responded by saying, I don't know who that is. And then he responded by saying, if you don't know who this is, you shouldn't be commenting on this thread. And then I jumped in, being, the social harasser that I am, and I said,
You?
Look, Do you think the average UNLV fan that is thinking of buying season tickets to UNLV knows who this guy is? Of course not. The answer is no. And I got to tell you, Scott, I think this is a mistake. It's another mistake by UNLV if they hire this guy. What do you think?
Well, here's the thing, and then I'll let you guys chew on it. And you say, if you take this job next year and you play fast, which I think he does, and you come in averaging 85 points a game, because it's always been called the Running Rebels, right? But Kruger slowed it up. Marvin's team played in the 50s, sometimes 60s. If you come in burping up 33s a game and score 92 points and lose 92-88, and you come in third in the Mountain West and you go from 4,000 to 8,000 people in the stands, you're a hero.
I agree. I couldn't agree with you more, Scott.
Do?
Yeah, I agree. And you know what?
Lose 192.
Yeah.
And make it exciting.
2 words, Scott. Mike Miller.
Or that. I mean, I think they just need to start pushing the ball, get about 4 or 5 guys that can sling it, and just make it exciting.
I think
people will go watch it.
I agree. I'm not sure TJ is the answer to that, but Scott, I do appreciate the call. Good to hear from you, my man. Thank you very much.
They are the Jackrabbits.
They
are the Jackrabbits.
Guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break.
What?
And when we come back, we are going to get the latest. We're going to stay on this UNLV theme. We are going to get the latest on who is going to be the next head coach. Is it going to be this guy, TJ Otzelberger? Mark Anderson from the Review-Journal is going to be joining us. He does a fantastic job covering UNLV. What is the latest on the coaching situation? Mark Anderson will be joining us next. We got Ron Futrell from Channel 8 in studio, along with Sharp. I am Shapiro. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.